Hey YouTube, it's Jay. So yeah, hey, got the table recovered yesterday. It's Simona's 860, so equipment wise, Brunswick Tournament Pro Edition, Gold Crown. Let me tell you, this thing was a beast for him to recover. So I did have it done professionally, paid somebody to do it, and it took 9 hours. This table had to be almost totally dismantled to be able to recover it properly. Which is awesome that he did it, because he didn't charge me any more than the ones he usually spends like an hour to 2 hours doing. So that was really cool of him. I was a little disappointed because he didn't put any cloths down when he was laying rails on the side, so I got like scratches in a few places around it that were not there. So new scratches, and there's some marks on the pocket covers here. A little bit disappointed in that, but overall the job he did as far as getting it recovered, getting it level, getting it ready to go, he did a really good job. So I just finished marking the table with the way that I mark my table, and I'm going to take a minute and show you how I mark them. I play a lot of different games that have a lot of different sets of rules. So rather than just doing like like most places do, and putting a spot at the top of the table, or a spot at the top of the table and marking the head string, I actually have markings for different rule sets that I use, and I'll show you those momentarily. We'll walk around here. Today, I'm going to spend half hour, 45 minutes kind of warming up, because I really haven't played at all in quite a while. Other than, I mean, you've seen all the playing I've done, with the exception of the one night out at the local bar and restaurant that had a pool table. Other than that, you've seen all the playing I've done. So I'm going to spend about a half hour, 45 minutes warming up. I'll just be throwing balls on the table and shooting them in. If I get a bad leave, I'm going to move the cue from behind the bat. If I get hooked behind something, I'm going to move the cue up. The purpose of the warm-up is not to frustrate myself with shots that I'm missing. It's to get my feel right in my stroke, it's to get my bridge right, it's to get everything normal before I start getting serious about it. So I'm going to be doing that for a little while, and I'll probably post the highlights up. And then I'm going to play the Ghost. I'm going to go back and look at the video of the Ghost, of the games against Ghost. I'll play Race to 7 like I always do. And then I'm going to do some analysis on that, which I'll share with you. And I'm going to determine what my practice points are going to be for the next few days. And I can tell you that speed control is probably going to be a part of that. Getting my stroke straight will probably be a part of it. I went back and looked at the video that I did about returning, and oh my gosh, I was pulling my stroke all over the place. So the one thing I have not done is I have not replaced the tips on the cues, which means they're harder than they should be. I will be replacing the tips on both shafts for my playing cue, but for today, I'm playing on the Mori medium that I put on in the video way back when, which was a hot mess about how to change a tip yourself. Horrible video, because there was so much failure, the equipment failed, and I tried to make the best of it, and I put it up on YouTube anyhow. Probably a mistake. So when I do this, I'll reissue the video with it done the right way without the fails. With that said, let me walk around the table with you and show you the markings. I made guidelines here where I figured I measured from the center of the pockets, and you'll see on the, well, you won't see it often, but there's a little dot right here. And that little dot is the center of that pocket. So there's one of those in each pocket, and then I measured from that center of the pocket equally to get the center line of the table. And then I did kind of the same thing going side to side, measuring from the pocket up to make sure I marked a little spot on either side, a reference point, and then I drew the line between them after re-verifying it several times. So on the head string, I have the head string itself right here, goes all the way across. These do go all the way under the rails so that when the ink fades, I can just use those as reference points to put it right back up in the same place. I have the head spot marked with a cross. And then you see these ticks out here. Those are 6 inches from the head spot, and they represent the breaking box for tournaments that have breaking boxes. So if it's a circular breaking box, it'd be the semicircle. If it was the square box, it would be, you know, the square breaking box. But either way, I always break right up by the head string. So between those 2 marks is where I need to break if I'm practicing for breaks in the breaking box. Okay, so that's the head of the table. Center of the table, between the 2 side pockets, I have the center spot marked. That's for straight pool primarily. There is like one situation where the center spot comes into play, and so that's what that's for. And then down here at the foot of the table, I have, this is the center of the table. This line is the exact center of the table, and it's like that because when you spot balls in any game, they get spotted behind each other. So if the 7 and the 8 were to both fall in at the same time, and they both had to come back up on the table, they get spotted behind each other and frozen. So, well, if there's traffic in here and it's not possible to spot directly on the spot for whatever reason, and sometimes this happens especially in straight pool where you'll have, you know, the broken up rack, it's like this, maybe there's a ball there and a ball here. Well, in this case, the 1 ball by rule gets spotted as close to the 9 as possible on the head string, assuming there's not enough room to fit it in any of these spots. So you need that, or on, not the head string, but on the center line. So that goes all the way down to the rail. So that's why there's that long line, and it doesn't just stop where the rack stops. Now I've got the outline of the rack. That's for straight pool because by rule, if the ball is, if your last ball on the table is inside the rack, it gets spotted at the head spot up there by the cue ball. So I actually have the rack drawn out, so it's easier to tell what's in the rack and what's not in the rack. Also, if I'm using the regular rack, which I greatly prefer, the bottom of my rack has the center of the rack marked, and if you place that center mark on the rack directly on that line and you line up the outside of it, you are now perfectly straight racked. And I measured the distance at both corners to make sure I had it exactly straight. Now what's new this time around is these 3 diamonds you see there. And those 3 diamonds are for the magic rack. So if I place the magic rack on the table and I line up those 3 diamonds, I end up with a perfectly straight rack using the magic rack. And I'm going to be using that more because that's what they're using in tournament play. So I will be using that. For those that haven't used the magic rack, the concept is you put the ball in the hole, you just basically roll it into the hole, and you'll see when I roll it into the hole, they just basically settle, and they settle frozen. And so within seconds, if I'm using 2 hands, which of course I'm not because I'm holding the camera, I can get an absolutely perfect rack. Now, the one thing I don't like about the magic rack, and by the way, this is the 9-ball and 10-ball version. The one thing I really don't like about the magic rack is that you're leaving something on the table that could change the course of the balls. Don't like that, but that's what they're using in tournament, so that's what I'm going to do. And the concept is you break with the rack still on the table. After they stop moving, then you pick the rack up and move it out of the way, and if there's a ball sitting on it, you just leave it there till it's clear. Not a big fan of leaving an artifact on the table that can change the course of the balls. But that said, that's what they're using, so that's what I'm going to practice with. So that's what those 3 diamonds are for. They're for the magic rack, and you can see that is an absolutely perfect rack. And if we come down and we look from above on it, you'll see that those balls are frozen. And if they're not, you can just kind of touch them and they'll fall into the holes and they'll be frozen. So no gaps there, looks good. You can see it's frozen all the way around. Now, here's one problem with a frozen rack. A frozen 9-ball rack that is truly on the spot will land the wing ball in the corner pocket. The 3-ball in this case will go straight into the corner pocket just about every time. So now it's about controlling the 1 and controlling the cue ball, not so much going for that huge break. Not a fan of that. Also, the perfect racks like this, and prior to this, the Sardo, where they would bang all the balls into place. The problem with that is it sets up both that wing ball break if you want a bigger break, and if you want a softer break, it sets up the one in the side break. I don't like that. I just don't like it. There's something fundamentally wrong with a rack where you know for sure you're going to make a ball pretty much every time. I think that reading the rack was part of the game that everybody should have learned. So anyhow, that's how I have my table marked. And you can see I'm not using a spot on the spot because I don't like stuff on the table that could potentially alter the course of a ball. And ultimately, if I'm using the magic rack, which I'm, again, not a huge fan of, but hey, it's what's out there. They're the ones sponsoring the tournaments, so I like that they sponsor the tournaments, and for me, I'm willing to give up a little on my, or get off my high horse a little bit, and just deal with the rack if they're willing to put money into the game, which is really what Pool's biggest issue is the lack of sponsorships in the game. So that's how I've got the table set up, and I'm going to go ahead and warm up. I'm probably not going to show the full warm up in video. It's more for me to just get a feel of things. I will probably just do like highlights of the warm up. You know, if I have a really good rack or a really bad rack, and then go back and explain what was really good or really bad about it. With that, I'm going to practice. I'm going to warm up. One thing I forgot to mention. So, and this was actually mentioned in another thread or in another video in the comments. So when I miss a ball and I'm warming up or I'm practicing, I put the ball down and I don't just keep shooting at the same ball over and over. So why do I do that? Well, first of all, that was advice from Ray Martin, because if you're shooting at the same ball over and over, then you're not really testing your leaves on the next ball. So what you need to do is shoot the ball. If you miss it, fine. Missing balls can be fixed with practice. But if your leaves are bad, then your thought process is bad. And if your thought process is bad, that doesn't get fixed with practice, because practicing the wrong thing over and over and over just makes you do the wrong thing every time. So the idea is, if you miss a ball for whatever reason, you miss the shot, you put that object ball down like you had made it and continue shooting from there. Okay, so I was seeing the shot, and I saw that the 6 and 8 were set up in what's called a ghost ball shot. So I don't try to get straight on the 6 here. Instead, I bring the cue out, make sure I get enough angle to get there. Now, what the ghost ball is it means that if I hit the 6 thin between the 6 and the 8 and just aim between them, the 6 is going to naturally guide the cue ball to the 8 for the shot. Okay, so putting together a nice little run here from the 4, and I get a little too far on the 6, so I have to do something kind of interesting. I have to roll this very slow with a whole lot of English. So I've got almost pure left-hand English on this, and I roll it slow to hold the cue ball and actually make the cue ball come backwards a little bit so that I can see the 7. Now, the 7's a pretty easy shot from here. I get dead straight in on this 8. It is absolutely straight in.
And so I use the exact technique that I talked about in my video the other day. I massage to get the lead.
By the way, that shot was exactly the concept on if you're straight in, how to create your angle and use masse to draw or to move out of the bad position. So that was an actual application of the video I put up yesterday.
Okay, so here I kind of see this 4-6, and I can do some things to get off the 3 on the 4, but I realize the 4-6 is frozen straight to the corner pocket. So rather than screwing with English or trying to get out to the side, I just go ahead and play for the carom. Double check it. Just basically stay in that general area, and then roll the 4 in on the 6. Use that to get a nice easy lead on 5.
All right, so I spent about a half an hour warming up. Now I'm warming up with just throwing them out. Now I'm going to do some where I warm up with a break. I'm not taking ball in hand, I'm shooting from where it lies. I will finish the rack even if I miss. Again, putting balls down. If I miss the ball, put the ball down so I can shoot the leave. And I'll probably do this for about a half an hour or so, and then I'll play the ghost. Same rules, just adding the break in. And you see what I meant about the corner ball? The wing ball goes just straight in. Same shooter. Wing ball, straight in again.
So here you're going to see me do something I do throughout and I need to fix. If you watch a stroke, my hand wobbles on the stroke. Okay, so if you pay attention here and you watch my backhand, you're going to see I'm nice and lined up here. Everything's great. But then when I hit the ball, watch the backhand right here. It's coming up. See how it went out and back in? That's actually a major problem because I do it all over the place in all of these, and that's definitely going to be something that I'm working on fixing.
Amazing. Just amazing. Oh, by the way, that is why when they use the magic rack, they break the brain doctors. It's just too easy to consistently make that ball. Okay, well, I made the 3-ball in the corner 3 times in a row. How about make the 8 in the corner this time? Absolutely amazing. How did I call? All right, time to play the ghost. If you were watching the earlier part, wing ball's going in every time, just as expected. This is actually going to be the ghost. So race to 7. I'm going to play it, with the exception of not really playing for safeties. I'm going to play it as I would if I was in a lights out shoot 'em up tournament. Ball in hand after the break. Remind you of the rules. Ball in hand after the break. Shoot till you miss. If you miss, the ghost wins. If you get the 9 ball, you win. Rules are fairly straightforward. So here we go. I'm going to start off making the 5 in the corner. Amazing. Crazy how that happens. Okay, so here, I've got an angle on this 3 where I can either hit the 7 with draw or I can try to slow roll it forward. I didn't like that I don't have a good feel for table speed yet, so I choose to draw it. Hit the 7, I'm hoping to bounce the 7 off the rail and bring it back out for the side pocket. I don't get it, and I end up thinking, well, I'll play this so that it gets 2 shots at the side. It gets 1 rail side or 2 rail side. And the English doesn't reverse on the second rail the way that I want it to, and so goes that game.
Okay, so here I get this really weird leave. I didn't draw it back far enough. I go for this bank. I should have cut this. There's no way I should have banked that ball. That was an absolute mistake. Whenever you have the choice between a cut or a bank, always go for the cut. Okay, over the next couple of racks, you're going to see me doing a couple different breaking speeds. You're going to see me do different things with the English. I'm kind of playing with the magic rack a little to figure out what's going on with it. So just be aware of that and see what some of the options I've chosen are. Ball in hand is just overrated. By far the most balls on the break right here. That was just slightly to the left of where I normally aim with top right English and medium speed. Hey, I get to use the bridge. Good thing I did that video on it last week. This particular shot is in Ray Martin's 99 critical shots in pool, and it's probably one of the most important shots in the game. Comes up all the time. And all it is a little bit of draw, pocket the ball, and then set yourself up for the next one. So the way forward is blocked here, and I decide to cut this back at the corner pocket. It's a super thin cut with a lot of throw to get that 90-degree angle. I get nowhere close to it. That's just practice. So I'm looking at this, and there's a whole bunch of ways I can do this. I can go forward against the rail. I can go off the one, off the bottom rail, off the rail on the right, and down the table. Try to get on the two that way, which is probably actually easier than what I do try eventually. What I do eventually is there's a gap between the 9 and the 3, and I'm just going to run straight up and down the table into that gap. And I've got the angle right. It's going to be perfect, except I have some challenges with speed. I needed a little bit more on that. Overall, hey, tried it. Here I tried to, I don't have the straight bank. I have to actually use bottom right on this to try to curve a little bit and get a really wide angle. I get too much and I miss the shot. I truly hate having to take this magic rack off the table like I am. I would much rather take the time to do it with a regular rack and just shoot out once I get to the table. But having the magic rack there is distracting, and so I stop mid shot to take care of it. I get this perfect. I'm straight in on the 3. All I've got to do is stop the ball on the 3, stop the ball on the 4, and I don't know what I'm thinking. I overhit that so hard. Definitely need to look at that going forward.
All right, so 1 to 7. Not a great start, but you know what? I did make some decent shots. I missed some easy shots. Overall, kind of mediocre about it, but I did notice some things that I need to work on, and I'm going to point those out here in just a minute. Once I have done so, we'll get ready for next time. And we'll start practicing those shots that I screwed up. So, all right, so room for improvement? Yes, a lot of room for improvement. A lot of defects? Actually, not really. There's like 2 things, maybe 3 things that I really need to work on. And if I work on those 2 or 3 things, my game should come up immensely. You know, there's a little bit of problem with the stroke, and there's a little bit of problem with speed control. I'm definitely skidding when I'm hitting the cue ball sometimes. I can feel it on the cue. So I definitely need to put a new tip on the cue. And overall, it really wasn't that bad. I mean, I didn't do great at 1 and 7 against Ghost. Come on, that's not that great. But that said, aside from missing ball in hand, I did pretty good. I don't mind what I did, and so we'll work on that. So you'll see me doing these videos pretty regularly, every day or 2, depending on what's going on at work. So in the next day or 2, there will be another video, and that video will be, I will spend the practice time there working on the things from this video that I pointed out when I did my analysis of my games versus the Ghost and some things that happened earlier on. And then I'll play the Ghost again, I'll do some more analysis. Next day after that, I'll fix those problems, or I'll work on those problems, plus the ones from today, because those aren't going to be fixed in a day or 2. And I'll just keep progressively working on getting better. And so this was the first day, this is the fresh start, this is it, this is where I'm beginning, and we'll see where I am in a month, we'll see where I am in 3 months, we'll see where I am in 6 months, and who knows, maybe in a year I'm playing the Open. Who knows? Probably not. It'll probably take a little more time than that, but who knows? We'll see. I did, as far as the glasses, I did notice when I first put them on, there was like a small wave of dizziness right when I put them on. After that, they kind of settled down. I still feel a little off with them, so there's some getting used to for these. Apparently there's a small difference in the lens between these and the ones I wear every day. Not sure what that's about. Definitely need to work on that. I definitely need to work on understanding what that is, and maybe I need to take a trip back to the doctor and maybe tweak the prescription, because my eyes are changing, and I know they're changing because things that were clear on day 1 and with my regular glasses are no longer clear, and I have to take the glasses off. I mean, further and further out is being sharp, so I think that the muscles in my eyes are maybe adjusting, and we'll see where this goes. I may have to get the lenses redone, because my eyes are changing now that the glasses are taking the strain off the distance view. Anyhow, I will let you go. Have a great day. If you like this video, if you like what you see in my other videos, hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.